Well, hello, I'm Beth the Builder, and this week I'm building a cold frame. So what the heck is a cold frame? So essentially it's a box with one or more transparent sides, and they're used for various different things in gardening. I'm going to use mine for hardening off my seedlings. So if you know anything about starting seeds inside, is that obviously at some point they need to go outside, but you can't just put them outside one day and leave them because they'll die. They'll get scorched by the sun. The wind will just wreck them. They can't handle it. It's too much of a climate shock from going to a very controlled space in your basement in a grow tent to then going outside. It's too much. So what people will do is they'll put them outside every day and then bring them inside every day, or put them in some kind of controlled space, whatever. So that's where a cold frame comes in handy. So what I'm gonna do is build my cold frame. Once my seedlings go outside, I'm gonna put them in my cold frame outside in the sun, and then it'll be on a hinge, the top window, the top transparent part, and I can open it for a number of hours and I can close it and it still gets sun through the window, but it's more protected by the wind, etc. And then I can slowly increase the number of hours that they're exposed to the wind and everything like that, because I can open it and close it. So it was pretty cool. It's also used for lengthening growing seasons. If you live in a colder climate, really anything below a 5 or a 6, that's a garden zone term if you know anything about that. So every place in North America and the United States has a zone, a growing zone, for how long your season is and when the first frost is approximately and when the last frost is. So it kind of can help you with when to start seeds and when to put things outside, etc. It's an approximation, so I'm sometimes in zone 5A, sometimes 5B, sometimes 4. It's a little bit loosey-goosey, and obviously every year is different. So we've still had snow into April, mid-April, late April, and that's just, like, that's not atypical for where I live, but you know, you can't just track exactly on like some kind of chart like, oh, April 22, that's the exact day that I can put all my plants outside and they won't die. It's much more complicated than that. Anyway, a cold frame will help lengthen your growing season. So you can put things outside sooner and also leave them outside later in the fall by using cold frames. Obviously this doesn't work if it's 40 degrees out or below because it's not insulated. It's not a greenhouse necessarily, but it does act kind of like a greenhouse does. Okay, so a cold frame is usually at a bit of an angle, especially, I think this is probably useful, especially when you only have one transparent top that hinges open versus a greenhouse that would, all the sides would be glass, which then you can get the most benefit from the sun on all sides. So I'm gonna use old windows. I have 3. And I think I'm going to end up being able to make 2 cold frames from them. So 2 of them are the same size, so I think I could do 2 sides that are glass, and then 1 is really big, so that'll be my top. And I'm going to do it at as good of an angle as I can. I think what was suggested is that it's at least 10 to 12 inches at its shorter end, and then 18 plus inches on the tallest side. So you'll see how it comes together. It'll be good. It's a very simple idea. And really all you need is like windows or some kind of transparent material. You could use like heavy plastic, but in the Midwest, Great Plains area, the wind is gonna destroy that eventually. So I think heavy windows are the way to go. And then you just wanna make sure that they can latch shut so they don't get blown open, etc. But yeah, the windows you can pick up on like auctions, garage sales, thrift stores, etc. People just leave them out and about when they don't want them because what do you do with old windows when you've replaced all yours or something? You know, it's a weird miscellaneous thing. So you can find them for pretty cheap. And then the frame is just wood, and then you just need some hinges. And it should come together pretty well. And I think it has multiple uses for gardening, which is kind of nice. So I'd love to have like a very cool greenhouse someday. I think that would be super dope. Very in line of things that I have goals for in the future of gardening more, growing more food, homesteading, being self-sufficient, all of these ideas. But for right now, we're still kind of at the beginning stages of that journey, and being able to make something like this that can just kind of help along the way is really great. And it'll have multiple uses because we do live in a very cold climate that once it gets cold around here, there's no messing around with it. Your plants are gonna die, like tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we're building today. and I'm excited. Should be a very useful thing for gardening, and I'm excited to be gardening soon out in the dirt. So let's do it. My gum out. Alrighty, so we're outside now. My cold frame is all ready to go. My seedlings are like, heck yeah, they're doing great. I'm pumped. I built this about 3 weeks ago inside, and it was way too cold out to put anything outside at that point. You really want it to be above 40 or 45 degrees like at night before you start to use a cold frame. A greenhouse you could probably use sooner because you want a greenhouse to be insulated and everything, but a cold frame is not. Two final things that I'm going to put or have put on my cold frame. I put an eye hook on the bottom here, and I put a hook on the top. And then I just use some rope, and that way I can like tie my lid shut, and so that the wind doesn't like rip my cold frame apart, because it will around here. The wind is an asshole. Secondly, I thought about this when we were putting our seedlings in here, is that you need something to prop your cold frame open with. So I'm using a stick right now, but that won't be that way forever. I'll have to use something else, and then I would want it to be attached to my top here, at least temporarily or something, because again, I wouldn't want the wind to like rip this open. I might use like just a piece of wood and then put a length of rope or chain from the top here to here so that it can open only so far. So even when it is propped open, the wind could blow it a little bit. It might have a little give, but it can't rip it all the way back, because these hinges, like, they're just gonna, like, it's gonna be bad if that happens. So I didn't think about that when I was initially building it, but that's not a big deal. I have scrap wood and I have rope, so it shouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, so I think a cold frame is a pretty important piece to any like more serious gardener, because especially with hardening off seedlings, then you don't have to be like worrying about bringing them back and forth between like shelter, like your garage or your house, and then putting them outside, because you do want to kind of like slowly introduce them to the outside world, because they've been isolated and protected in your home. Rule of thumb is you want them to have at least like 4 legit leaves on them before you start herding them off. So we do have some seedlings that are still like kind of straggling inside, mostly our peppers, because they just take a long time to grow. And this is it's a learning curve. We're not experts about this, and this is the first year that we're starting seedlings inside. And we have probably like 20 tomatoes that are doing like friggin' great. So that feels like a success. And then we've got peppers and some flowers. So our cucumbers were a bust. None of them grew. I don't know what's up with that. I think maybe it was too cold because they like hot weather. Yeah, those are the last 2 things. Just making sure that you can latch your cold frame, and then also being able to prop it open and that the wind's not gonna like rip it apart. I've seen other designs where people would insulate cold frames more like you would a greenhouse or something. You could put like straw bales around it. You could use, you know, just straight up insulation like styrofoam or whatever on the outside or the inside. I don't know. But yeah, so we're gonna slowly, like, we'll probably close it for the night because they've already had a good like 6 hours of sun inside. And then yeah, they'll get sun through this, and then we'll also prop it open for a number of hours every day. So as far as I understand all this stuff, it's kind of just like introducing them to the wind, the different temperatures, the sun, etc. So we'll probably move this as our trees start filling in, but for right now, I think this will get a good amount of sun, but it won't be full sun. I mean, it might be actually because of our trees. So you kind of want to look at like where you're going to be planting your seedlings. So they're going to be about 20, 30 feet that way in full sun. So we'll probably end up moving this closer to the garden, but I don't want to record out there because people walk by and it's much closer to the road, and that's annoying for sound. But you should check out my Patreon because I'll be adding new content, exclusive content, extra bonus shit of Beth the Builder to that. So you can check that out and in the description. And then that's a very direct way that you can support me. Otherwise, like, just keep liking and watching and subscribing because, like, hell yeah. And yeah, I mean, go build a cold frame. This is all like scrap wood and just a spare window that was gonna get thrown in a dumpster. So, you know, that's pretty great. How about that for some like crunchy granola, hippy dippy, like reuse, reduce, recycle, guys? How about that? It's all scrap wood plus something that would have ended up in a dumpster, so... Anyway, and yeah, starting seedlings is a journey. You're not going to jump in and then grow like hundreds and hundreds of seedlings. You kind of got to start with just a few things. And when those are successful, then you can like keep broadening your horizons and figuring out what you need to change or tweak and what things are going to like add to your gardening journey, because it's a journey. So, happy gardening. I hope, you know, anyone who wants a garden has one this year. And I hope this was helpful to somebody. I think cold frame, you'll find it in like pretty much every gardening book that it will be talked about because it's very, very useful. Well, yeah, I already told you to like and subscribe and check out my Patreon. You can check out my Etsy. So I'll have a new video next week, and thanks for watching.